Whatever weight you want to lose, whatever changes you want to see, you won't see anything for the first 2 weeks. Tracking our macros, working out, whatever you're doing, wonderful. Your body has a 2-week lag.
I think everyone in their weight loss journey at some point kept on looking at the analytics. And at some point that analytics is going to stunt you. And when it does stunt you, what you have left is your habits. And if you just stick to the habits, you'll really start to progress in life in a way where you're just like, amazing.
If stepping on the scale daily is like watching paint dry. You're watching paint dry minute by minute. You're touching it, expecting it to be dry. If you're stepping on the scale every single day, you're expecting it to change. There's an emotional attachment to when it doesn't change. Why isn't this dry yet? Why isn't this dry yet? Whereas if you can hold on to the structure, the paint will dry. The weight will come off. I got something for you before we end. I'm throwing a curveball at you. What's the best?
The lessons you learn in the gym can be the same lessons you can learn in life. And if you are not leveraging some of those lessons, you guys are missing out. Today, I got Coach Nick Nash with me. We're calling this series, what was it again?
Brocrates.
Yeah. Swolcrates. Socrates. If you guys don't know who Socrates is, he's a philosopher that is... he has like the most quotes.
Yes.
You know, serious life lessons, ones where you need to like drink a glass of wine after hearing it. But anyways, if Socrates was here right now and he was actually CrossFitting and working out and he's writing these lessons down, this is essentially the series we're talking about. This is volume 1 because there's too many lessons. We have a lot of cool conversations where we're like, what did you say to me in that coaching session? And then it just like, I write things down. So I'm pumped to actually go over this because this is a topic. I don't know if it's going to get a bunch of views, but I just know I'm going to be really excited about it.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Because it's something that we always talk about. We go deep in this stuff.
100%. Can I just say, I'm very sad that you don't have a nickname for me. This is
this
is the only podcast that we've shot.
We've done a few.
I think this is a second podcast. I I always look forward to whatever names you come up with, but whatever.
I didn't prepare for it. My fault, man.
Whatever.
But Socrates is the name. Right? So I don't know. We did use a Nick Nash philosopher name last time. Nick Robbins.
Oh yes, yeah, that's true.
We did use that one.
All right, fair.
Nick Ortiz.
I apologize.
I don't know, dude. Okay, so guys, if you guys are watching us for the first time, my name is Coach Royce. This is Coach Nick. We've been trainers for a cajillion years. We run 2 gyms here in Las Vegas. So when we talk about fitness, we've been in this game for a minute. So welcome to our channel. So
yeah, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, so let's dive right in. You're gonna answer the first question.
Okay.
So, what are some of the biggest lessons you learned in fitness that has really served you now in life?
I love it. So at first I'm going to start with a statement and then I'll give a short phrase afterwards. Just so that way, you know me, I love my questions. Anybody who knows me knows I love the questions. And what I've found is that just brings a higher level of awareness and ultimately want you to come to your own conclusion, your own answer. I'll give you what one perception of the answer could be, and then I want you come up with your own answer. Sure. I have it written down. Let me look at it. All right. So the first thing is the body is always 2 weeks behind the work.
Okay.
And the question of this, or the little phrase after it is, what if the results you're chasing are already on their way, just not visible yet? In fitness, like in life, we often abandon the path too soon, mistaking silence for failure. But what if success is simply consistency extended through time? Can we learn to trust the structure even when there's no applause?
I love it.
So
give me the framework. Where did you get this lesson? You're 2 weeks behind from results, essentially.
So personally, I got it when so in the start of my fitness career, right, going from 300 pounds down to 200 pounds, I saw results quickly and not by good means, having more of a diet mentality than anything else. And then plateaued somewhere around like 280. And when I plateaued around 280, I was very frustrated. Yeah. And this is kind of where it first showed its head, that the body is 2 weeks behind the work. Because then I changed some things. I started playing way more basketball, doing way more cardio. And I didn't see anything for the first week, didn't see anything for the second week. But going into the third week is when I A, started to feel better. The body started to feel better because the body was able to adapt. And then B, by like Wednesday of that week, I started to see some results. And so then that was really encouraging.
Yeah.
And whenever I go through a phase of, happy holidays and then have to lose the holiday weight, it's something that I've always come back to in terms of understanding that, okay, I'm going to put in a shitload of work for 2 weeks
Yeah.
and I'm not going to see any progress. That's just how it is. But on that third week, that's when momentum starts to build. For the first 2 weeks, your body is adapting to what you're doing and it's building momentum. But, as you build momentum, it just slowly gets more and more and more. The snowball rolls downhill. And so going into that third week is when you start to see some of the results that you're looking for. So that's in my personal life.
Yeah.
But then also with coaching clients, that is something that I always make a foundational lesson in the very beginning. Whatever weight you want to lose, whatever changes you want to see, you won't see anything for the first 2 weeks, right? So if we're tracking our macros, if we're working out and doing a bunch of cardio, whatever you're doing, wonderful. Your body has a 2-week lag time. So you're not going to see the fruits of your labor for at least 2 weeks going into week number 3.
Yeah. A reset of expectations is medicine for a lot of people, right? I can relate to this because you ever do like linear programs with strength training? The first time I did like an Olympic, I was like, I'm going to program my own Olympic lifting cycle. 50%, 60%, 70%, 80%, 90%, 95%, then max out, right? And then what ended up happening at that 100% was I didn't hit my max. And then I was telling my lifting coach, I was like, hey, how come I did this linear jump? And he was like, okay, what did you do from like 90 to 100%? I was like, well, I went to 95%. And then the next week I went to 100%. He was like, wait, where's the deload week? And I was like, what do you mean deload week? Well, you have to rest and recover for the next week so your joints can heal, your muscles can heal, and then you max out.
And your central nervous system can come back to
Yeah, and your central nervous system and so I'm rushing to get so strong, but what I actually needed in that moment was recovery and rest. So I've noticed that this 2 weeks concept gives me more grace when I'm doing it. And it also gives me the juice to just be like, I'm just going to keep going. Whatever I'm trying to receive in terms of results is only 2 weeks ahead as long as I continue to do X, Y, and Z. And I think a lot of times in the gym, most people think initially you can see possibly the results maybe the first week, but I think it's false results a lot of times because they just gave up all of the carbs.
I was about to say, or it's like a drastic change in something that they're doing, like eating out all the time to eating whole foods. Like you're going to see a drastic change continue.
Yeah, 100%. And so they think that work will result in that, but what's really happening is probably 2 or 3 weeks out. And when you reset that expectation, I think you get to the results so much quicker. And 2, I think you'll enjoy those 2 weeks more, knowing you have nothing. You're really expecting anything after 2 weeks.
This was really solidified when we were doing one of our strength cycles. I think it was like a 7-week strength cycle.
Yeah.
And we were on our deload week, and NC Fit, shout out to NC Fit. Their programming is absolutely phenomenal. We've been on it for years, and I love it because every single time we do a strength cycle, everybody gets stronger. Right, especially if they trust the program and they just listen, everybody gets stronger. And it's I haven't seen that in programming in other places that I've been. So I really appreciate NC Fit and all the time and effort that they put into programming our strength cycles. But there was one instance where everybody was getting stronger, and we were on we'll say 4 of a 6-week cycle. Actually, we were on week 5 of a 6-week cycle. So we were in our deload week. Yeah. And we have athletes like
that don't want to deload.
That don't listen, right? And it's like they're feeling good. They're like, cool, I'm going to continue to feel good. And had a particular conversation with an individual, and I was just like, hey, the deload week is so that way your central nervous system can come back to you. Your body can heal up, so then that way you can PR the next week. And the individual was like, nah, I'll do it, and then I'll go harder next week. And I was like, okay, cool. If you don't PR next week, just remember this conversation. And so, fast forward a week, we're going to the lift, super strong individual. They were like, cool, I'm going to bang it out. And they maybe did 80% of their one rep. right? Maybe
Yeah.
85,
Yeah.
but they drastically missed PRing. And they were super frustrated about it. And I'm not one to tell you I told you so. That I don't care for that, right? I don't care to be right. A lot of people who know me, I don't care to be right. I just care to be understood. So
Right.
then took that moment to have a conversation with that athlete and was like, hey, part of the reason why you didn't PR is because last week you went heavier, as heavy as your PR, maybe even a little heavier, and your central nervous system it didn't come back to you. Sorry to say.
Yeah.
You didn't give your body the week to de-stress before you tried to stress it out again. And so that concept really, the deload week was really solidified then. And I actually had a conversation with, Madison, Courtney, and Christina. They're doing their squat cycle for however freaking long. And they were telling me the program. Madison wasn't. It was either Courtney or Christina. But they were telling me the breakdown of it. And I asked, I was like, okay, cool. So like, where's your deload week? And they're like, oh, there's not one program in there. We're just going to go 80, 85, 90, 95, and then max out. I was like,
Go for it.
It's not gonna work. Yeah. I was like, please
I've
take
done it
a
before,
deload week.
It might work for very, very novice, but these
Yes.
girls have been lifting for
Yes.
a decent amount.
Yes.
So it's interesting. There's so many lessons to unpack here, because one lesson is in life we'll have moments where we're just elevated stress, and we're trying to get the result, but we refuse to take like a day off. Let alone a week off. Like, I just got to keep grinding. I got to keep grinding, get this new client, get this new number, or whatever you're trying to do in your life. And you just burn out and you just crash.
And you crash hard.
Yeah. And I've seen this in my life. So now when we go into Q4, which is typically our slowest year, right? I'm a little bit more intentional. Like, I know Q4 is always going to be a little bit less in revenue. So I'm just going to use that week to connect with me and also connect with my family. And then you hit January really, really hard, right? So if you guys are listening to this right now, maybe you need to incorporate that deload week. One, in either your fitness or just in life in general. Now, when we're saying deload, what does that mean? Does that mean like I'm not gonna lift anything, or like or I'm just gonna like eat sweet potato fries the whole time?
Hey, don't hate on sweet potato fries. Them
I
shits
love
is
it.
delicious.
Yeah. Tell me what that is.
So thank you for asking. As you brought that up, I was like, that's a great point. We should dive into that a little bit. So if we're going to talk percentages, right?
Yeah.
So a deload week is anywhere from 30 to 50% of what it is that you can maximally or optimally do. And you can think of it more as like a lighter technique base, a lighter technique weight, right?
Yeah.
So if you're taking a deload week from your nutrition, it is, okay, cool. I'm not going to maybe be in such a calorie deficit like I've been, right? But I'm not going to gorge myself. So it's
So good.
finding a little bit of a balance. Same thing with the weight on the barbell, right? I'm really going to stick to whatever my 50% is. As good as I feel and as much as I want to go heavier, the goal, right? What is going to have me leaving this session or leaving this gym feeling the most fulfilled is if I PR next week, right? I'm not going to feel fulfilled if I don't PR next week. I'll feel like the last however many weeks are for naught. And so it means back off a little bit, not go as intense, and focus a little bit more on technique, right? And in life, what that would mean is, okay, cool. Let's say you're working 5 days out the week. Out of those 5 days out of the week, if you've been in we'll say a season of pushing hard, we'll say 80 to 90%, 95 to 100% for 4 out of the 5 days out of the week, your deload week is like, okay, cool. Maybe you get 1 or 2 of those days. The other 3 days out of the week, you're backing off, right? Nice. Whether that means you delegate, whether that means you prioritize differently, whatever that looks like for you. But your intensity for your deload week, whether it's in the gym or whether it's in life, means that you're not looking to optimally perform for a high duration. You're only going to optimally perform for a smaller duration. Why? Because if you're in the workplace, maybe you have a sprint, whatever that looks like for you in your workplace, coming up in the following week or in the following 2 weeks. So if you can back off, throttle back a little bit, coast a little
Yeah.
bit, right, by delegating or reprioritizing whatever your work needs you to do, then when you get to your busy season, right, whatever that looks like for you, or your busy week or your busy 2 weeks, then you have more energy that you can output into those instances.
100%. I can relate to this.
Listen, if you're trying to lose weight, but you're just frustrated because you just can't seem to see any results, we would love to help you out. Now, we've been helping thousands of our athletes over the course of a decade by crafting personalized programs that are not only sustainable, but also effective. Now, if you're ready to transform your health, click on the show notes below, book a call with one of our coaches. We'd love to help you out. Now back to the show. Peace.
To this when I went to Hawaii,
Mm.
right? So one major principle is to back off, but don't just like completely veg out.
Yes.
So this was like a lesson for me. So I took almost 2 weeks off,
Mhm.
and the way we did that was essentially give the keys to James
Mhm.
and let him run the team.
Mhm.
Right.
Stress test the system.
Yeah, stress
remember.
test the system. And he saw me answering emails. he was like, "Hey, dude, I can see you're answering emails. You need to chill out." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, you need to spend time with your wife." And
That's so funny.
and so I did. And you know what was interesting enough was I went all into the vacation. I started to learn some
Mhm.
things, and there was a scenario where we went to a zip lining event, and man, their business was so sound.
Mhm.
Like they had their values, they had their stories. It was just like, oh, I got to go take that into my business.
Mhm.
So just deloading off, I had this intensity coming back. I was like,
Mhm.
guys, and I think I like delivered a sweet story, and
Mhm.
and we just like we revved up the team again for the next few weeks.
Mhm.
So
And think about it. You were able to be more present on your vacation.
yes,
With you being more present, you deepen the connections you have with your wife and with your son.
Mhm.
And by deepening those connections, because that's what really matters to you, you felt more energized. And because you felt more energized, because you were more present, by the time you got back to work, you were ready to go, firing on all cylinders. Whereas if
Yeah.
you were answering emails, shout out to James, good catch,
Yeah.
James. But if you're over here answering emails, right, you're not being present. You're taking 20 minutes, 40
Yeah.
minutes, an hour away from your loved ones in a space where you've taken the time to go on vacation with. It was just Tara, right? It wasn't
it was
Lucas.
Tara.
Lucas
It was
stayed.
Tara.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even more important, you're taking time away from your wife, right? Oh my gosh! Shout out Tara.
Yeah.
Should have slapped him upside the
Yeah.
back of the head. But you're taking time away from your wife, right? Taking time away from that relationship, which means the world to you.
Mhm.
And because you were able to be present with your wife, be present with the ziplining experience, be present in driving up and down the coast of Hawaii, listening to the Hawaiian reggae music, which is my
So
favorite,
good,
right?
yeah.
All those things, because you were present, gave you more energy. And because you had more energy, you had a stockpile of energy when you got back.
It was almost too much.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's so ironic about this, right? So having this concept of deloading one, but also this concept of just like it's 2 weeks out is something that I constantly have to remind myself. That's why I want to do these podcasts to remind not only myself, but remind you guys that you might have to take that off, right?
And it's advantageous.
And that's and it's actually just part of the process. It's been like a lot of these percentages that we're doing, the deloads are not random. They've been like Olympic lifters have been deloading, some of them for 2 weeks, and it's like we're trying to do something for the first time and like we've discovered it. But guys, it's not. It's been done. Like you can maybe modify it a little bit, but for the most part, if you want to be successful in your fitness life or successful in your regular life, someone's already paved the path. And this whole 2 weeks concept, I also think is the deload concept, right? So I love that. I'm glad that you shared that.
I wish we could see, like, I know there's data out there somewhere, but I wish we could see the data for what the intensity looks like, intense, backing off, right, and holding. And then coming back and ramping the intensity back up. I would like to see that growth, as opposed to where you would I would like to see that line as opposed to if you were to try to stay in at a certain level of intensity the whole time. Like I would like to see, is it 10% more? Is it 15% more? Is it something crazy like 30 to 40% more? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So because when you came back, I distinctly remember when you came back, right? You were energized, you energized us, the business had more energy. And I don't know what the numbers were, right? But I feel
Yeah.
like for the next month to 2 months, maybe even 3
You're
months,
on fire.
yeah, everybody was on fire. So everything
Yeah.
got better. So
Because I had like 15 stories, you know, and I was like, I
Yes.
just need a story to jam this point in.
Yes.
And sometimes they're just the smallest story can create massive energy for your team.
100%.
I love that. All right, so let's go to the second lesson.
Okay.
This one's my lesson. And to be quite honest, I think you might be the one that coached me on this. And it was an event of rope climbing. And it's not something that I'm really, really good at. I mean, I'm good at gymnastics, but I think I spent a lot of time muscling through this movement
Mhm.
instead of really refining it with technique.
Mhm.
And I don't know how many reps it was. It was probably like 10.
I think this was the day I asked you
Yeah.
because I think this was the day I told you, like, hey, you can get up there in one.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, but anyways, I did like 2 or 3 and I'm just gassed, you know, because I'm just muscling through it. And then you were like, hey, dude, if you want to go up, you have to let go of one arm. And what I was doing was I was like doing this really, really quickly. And you have, when you guys are doing a rope climb, you have to hold with one arm. You got to let go of the other arm so you can really go to the next arm. And I just wasn't letting go. And I was spending so much energy just for those 3. And while I got up, I was too gassed. I couldn't keep going. And everyone else was surpassing me, but it was just really interesting. And after that class, I was like, did this guy just throw a nugget bomb at me? He was like, if you want to go, you got to let go. And I was like, this guy, right? So now I take that same concept and I apply it to my business and my life. If I want to go up, I got to let go somewhere. And there's a couple of principles here. One, I still have a firm grip on one side. And what that can represent is it can represent your goals. It can represent your values. It can represent your family. Like you're holding on to something. There's like, there's something concrete. It's something about your character. Okay. The second part is I'm letting go of my other arm, right? So the other arm is a representation of trust for me. For a while, I didn't trust anybody. I'm just like micromanaging everyone. I think this is and I still do some in certain areas, but now I'm like so hands off, right? So it's like that took a long time. That took a long time for me and you. I think I was managing you too much, and at some point, I was like, this guy knows more than me, and the moment I let that go, I think we started to elevate. In one, our relationship changed too. I think we went from like coach to mentor to friend now. Right now, it's like we're learning at a high level. We're both students all of a sudden in this game, which is really interesting to me. And then the last, I guess that last part is the going part, right? Which is I got to my goals more by letting go.
And I think it's yes, you got to your goals more, but I think it's an efficiency thing. The efficiency for which you got there allowed you to have more energy to put back into Royce.
100%. That's so true. Yeah. I got further once I started understanding that. And I got further because I'm not like burning out my bicep the whole time.
And I'm just thinking back to, I think I roughly remember the specific day, and it was, all we aimed to do was make you more efficient in the movement because you were like, we don't have super tall ropes, right? So you jumped up there, you were halfway up there, and then you would clamp your feet and you would just like screw your hands up there. And I was like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
Why is he taking 2 or 3 times? Like, I'm like, Royce, you can get up there. If you jump up there, lock your feet, go 2 big hands, you're up there. You were like, what?
Like, what? Yeah.
I was like, just try it on the next one for me. And then sure enough, you did. You went boom. You went and you were like, what? And I was like, yes, do that for the rest of the workout, please.
100%.
So yeah, that was a good day.
So and then I took these, like I said, I could take these lessons and I'm still applying it now. What areas can I let go? What areas can I hold firm? And where do I want to go? Right? And then when you start to apply that, man, guys, your fitness not only gets better, like your life gets so much better. Right? All encompassing. And there are moments where if I let go of the other arm though, then you're in trouble. And that's your character, like I said. So it's like you still got to have that. Have you applied that in any parts of your life, this whole letting go concept?
I would say, so the first thing that comes to mind is ever present, always working on perfectionism, right?
Okay.
And so specifically what I'll liken it to is, I've talked about it before. I have my best self journal, right? And when I'm optimized in that thing and when I'm doing it all the time, it is the universe blesses me in a multitude of ways in terms of clients. Like when I get a structure on my time, then the universe blesses me with more things to fill the structure with, and my life just gets better, right? Wow. And I'm able to prioritize time for me. I'm able to prioritize work, and I'm also able, like, it's absolutely amazing. And being a person that's never liked structure before, like I got a really rebellious side. If you know me, I'm rebellious on the inside. I like to freestyle. Yeah. But it's crazy the amount of freedom you get within the structure. 100%. And I think that was one of the things that blew my mind. So in relation to the Best Self Journal, it's very insidious perfectionism, very insidious, because I want to work at a high level, I want to hold myself to a high level. But in relation to the journal, it's one of those things where in the old version, right? And we'll say old as in like 2-3 months ago, right? Yeah. The older version of me, if I missed a day, okay, cool. We'll have some grace with yourself for a day, right? Yeah. If you miss 2 days, okay, now you're starting to trend. If you miss 3 days, fuck it, we'll start next month, right? Or we'll start at the end of the next block. Yeah. And so then had to create some powerful reframes of letting go of the fact that I'm trying to fill this thing out 7 days a week. Yes, if I can, if the opportunities are there, if my life's working out that way, cool, fill it out 7 days out of the week. But the goal is just to fill it out.
Just to fill it out.
Just to fill it out. Fill out something. Right. And so it's even if you just touch it and open it, right? Mm-hmm. So the goal is not to be perfect. Mm-hmm. The goal is just to have some progress. And if I have some progress for long enough, right? If I'm progressing consistently for long enough, eventually somewhere down the road I'll get to filling it out 7 days and it won't feel like a task. Right. But I can't focus on the days that I don't fill it out, because then we kind of talked about it in the car. I get in my feels, right? Yeah. We'll call it what it is. I get in my feels, and then I'm like, fuck it. And I get frustrated. And I'm like, oh, I'll do it next time.
You just let go of the whole thing.
100%. So I had to let go of the perfectionism mindset. And I'm actively doing this in different aspects of life, but I had to let go of the perfectionism mindset in relation to the Best Self Journal. So because I had to come to the understanding that the goal is not to be perfect. The goal is not 7 for 7. The goal is something. Mm-hmm. You do something daily that'll build momentum over time, and then it'll get you where you want to go.
So good. So a couple of things. The journal for me represents the arm that's clamped, which is the habits, like trusting in the habits that it will fruit in something. Mm-hmm. The right arm that's letting go is your results, because you said you got more clients. Mm-hmm. But in order to do that, you had to habitually do this left arm, like stay in that point. Mm-hmm. And man, I actually see this a lot in my weight loss clients. Mm-hmm. The left arm is them coming in 3 days a week, eating enough protein, drinking enough water, get 10,000 steps, meditate for 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. The right arm that's letting go is the results, like their attachment to the scale, their attachment to their blood glucose, whatever all of those things are, right? And once you start to do that, you can really start to rise. Mm-hmm. And I think everyone in their weight loss journey or the fitness journey at some point kept on looking at the analytics. Mm-hmm. And at some point that analytics is going to stunt you. Mm-hmm. And when it does stunt you, what you have left is your habits. Mm-hmm. And if you can just stick to the habits, one, also think that you're 2 weeks behind. Mm-hmm. You'll really start to progress in life in a way where you're just like amazing.
Mm-hmm. I like to think of stepping on the scale daily or often as like like watching paint dry. Mm-hmm. You're watching paint dry minute by minute. You're touching it every minute on the minute, expecting it to be dry. Same concept, right? If you're stepping on the scale every single day, you're expecting it to change. Yeah. And then there's an emotional attachment to when it doesn't change, right? It's just like watching paint dry, touching it every minute and having an emotional reaction to it not being dry. Yeah. Like, why isn't this dry yet? Why isn't this dry yet? Whereas if you can hold on to the structure, the paint will dry.
Yeah.
The weight will come off.
So good.
Right? But allowing there to be space and having trust in the process of the structure that is provided from your personal trainer, or having trust in the process that anybody who's ever painted a room has just, if you leave it alone, it'll dry itself. You don't need to watch it dry. That's like an analogy that comes to mind there. It's like watching paint dry.
I love that analogy. And you know, the other side, like the paint will paint.
Yes.
But then you're just spending so much energy that you burn out, and then you just
100%.
quit.
You're like, I don't want to paint anymore.
Yeah.
Like, well, you still got 3 other walls.
So good. All right, dude, we got 2 lessons. Let's smash out one more lesson, because if I did a 4th lesson, we'd be over. What was the last lesson you gave me?
All right. So the lesson is appreciate the valleys, or the peaks will break you. What's the value of reaching the summit if you skipped the climb? We want the mountaintop, but the lessons are in the foothills, the scraped knees, the slow steps, the days it doesn't click. Can you fall in love with the process, knowing that's what prepares you to hold the peak, not just reach it?
So hold on, man. you said appreciate the valleys,
Yes.
or the peaks will destroy you.
Yeah, appreciate the valleys, or the peaks will break you.
This one is insane to me, because this is 100% the principle that I need.
That's a good face.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And all too often, I think the peaks are going to be more amazing than it is. When we finished 75 hard, like, it was miserable for me the whole time. But then I was like, yeah, we're at the end. But I realized when we're in the suck, that was actually the best part for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get there, I get a 6-pack, and I'm like, so what? Right? Same thing with 1,000 Murphs.
Mm-hmm.
I've hated so many moments of it, but I've got so many learning lessons. And then when I got there, I'm like,
You get the
now
what? Yeah, what's next?
it just
What are we doing?
destroys you. And someone's listening to this right now, and they're in the suck.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope this reminds you that, yes, it may suck, but I'm telling you, it's also going to be the most memorable moment that you have. When you had your weight loss
Mm-hmm.
from 300 to where you are now, it probably sucked a little bit, but you can't do it again. You know what I mean? It's like there's so many. Why do you think it's so fun and it's so exciting in that valley? Why do you think that is?
Because that's when you're taking the time to sculpt who it is that you want to be, and you're also finding out about yourself, who you think you are, and who you actually are. For most people, there's cognitive dissonance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people think that they're one way, but most people can't get above their feelings, right? So you're thinking yourself one way, but you're feeling and acting from another space. So it's cognitive dissonance. And I think the fun in the suck is when you discover that there's cognitive dissonance, and then the game becomes, okay, cool, how can I be the person that I think I am?
Mm-hmm.
Right? How can I do what it is I say I'm going to do and follow through? I think that's where the fun is. And then anybody who's stuck in the suck, one reframe for the suck that will hopefully help you get a little bit better is, what are 3 appreciations you can have for being in the suck if you're in the valley? What are 3 appreciations you can have for being in the valley right now, right? And that will help you reframe, and hopefully it'll help you feel a little bit better about being in your valley and understand, this too shall pass. The peaks are going to pass, the valleys are going to pass, nothing lasts forever.
Right.
The only constant is change. So when you're in the valley, if you can find things to be appreciative of, you're starting to change. And as you start to change, you'll find that once you find the appreciation in the valley, you'll start working your way back up to whatever peak it is for you.
Yes. There's a couple, I think, here that you just smashed on. Cognitive dissonance.
Mm-hmm.
One part is, when you're in that suck and you're making those progress, you start to learn things about yourself by unlearning things about yourself, right? The lies that you were been told, like, hey, you're going to be big your whole life. You're just big boned. It's like, that's not true. So you wipe that out. So you're like removing these lies that's people been telling, that's essentially became true at some point. And you're like, whoa, that's not me. That's interesting.
You get to make the decision of whether or not you want to continue to hold on to it. And is it serving you?
Exactly.
It served you in the past. You can figure out where it served you in the past. But is it still serving you moving forward?
Another part, I think, which gets really exciting is the acquisition of skills. You're like, holy smokes, I can do that? Oh my gosh, I can eat this protein. Like I can cook this food.
Mm-hmm.
I can actually do a rope climb,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like there's once you get your first rope climb, the second rope climb is not as fun. You know what I mean? The 10th rope climb actually becomes more painful now because you're just like, this hurts.
Now you got volume.
Yeah, now you got volume in it. The first time is like, oh my gosh. That's why it's so exciting to see people's first pull up, first toes to bar, first body weight back squat, because we know that is like the best moment that we felt unconsciously.
And I think that's so. I don't know about for you, but for me, that's one of the reasons I coach.
Yeah.
I can't get my first pull up again. Can't get my first snatch again. Can't get my first muscle up again. Right. But I can work through your valley with you, and I can share a little bit of the peak with you. It's not like I'm doing it for myself, but I do get to share in the appreciation of the moment and all the work it took to get there. And I get to sit with you in the moment of when you can finally do it. And there's no greater feeling than watching people overcome something that they thought they couldn't do and see that then they can. And then it's you let it be for a day, and then you come back the next time, and you always see it, right? Someone gets a muscle up, like, cool, I got a muscle up, and then the next time they come back, or it's in a workout, they're like, hey, cool, I know I can do at least one, and then they can't do it, and then they're like, oh, I'm like, doing a muscle up is one thing, doing a muscle up in a workout, completely different thing. Right. So we were there. We did the muscle up. Wonderful. Let's build capacity there. Wonderful. Yeah. In the workout, that's okay. You can be frustrated, but understand once your heart rate's elevated, once we've lifted a heavy barbell and now we're expecting you to go to the bar and execute a high level gymnastics skill, likelihood is you probably won't be able to do it.
Isn't that crazy? This is there's another lesson embedded in this lesson. Once they get that first muscle up, they think training that muscle up is doing more muscle ups. But it's actually all of the pull-ups and all of the dips that you've been practicing and all of the toes to bar that you've been practicing. That's now you're neglecting. That's the left arm. You see what I mean?
Foundational stuff.
So, yeah, there's that lesson implanted in there, which is I've been there before. Too many times. So when you acquire that skill, doesn't mean you could just like, I'm just going to do that skill 100 times. No, you got to do a lot of the basics.
So maybe you're not working on muscle ups. Take it back to something a little bit more foundational. So I've got butterfly pull-ups. I've always had butterfly pull-ups. Even when I get heavy, I still have butterfly pull-ups. It wasn't until I actively started going back and working on a high volume of kipping pull-ups that my butterfly pull-ups got even better, right? And the thought process and the goal was, can I do, so like if we had a 10-round workout, 10 pull-ups, we had last week, I think, the first 5 rounds, held myself to the standard of, cool, my first 5 rounds, I'm just going to do kipping pull-ups.
Yeah.
Then after that, then and only then, can you do butterfly pull-ups? And so I held myself to that. By the time I got to my butterfly pull-ups, everything was synchronized. Everything was feeling good. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like it's working because my butterfly pull-ups feel better. And if my butterfly pull-ups feel better, then I know the kipping's working, and then the gymnastics is overall going to get better. And that's the overarching goal. So going back to that foundational work, once you get it, cool. You eat more vegetables.
Yeah.
Do more of what got you there. Don't be like, okay, cool, I'm there. This is what I'm going to focus on. No. Go back. Go back. Do everything you did, but do it twice. Do it twice as good. Because the more efficient you can become in the foundational stuff, the easier the high-level skill or the party tricks or the cool things, you're going to be able to do that at a higher capacity.
The fancy is done by mastering the foundations.
Yes. By mastering the mundane, all the non-sexy stuff.
100%. And I see this all the time in nutrition too. Like they try to overcomplicate it. They're like, you know what? I'm going to start getting my beta alanine up. I'm going to start getting my zinc magnesium up. It's like, dude, just eat your proteins and your vegetables for a year first. And then we'll start worrying about some of that stuff, right? Like
all the granular stuff.
Like all the granular stuff. And they hit these walls. Like the complex is paralyzing. And the fancy is like, again, it just leads to just more damage. We just neglect all of these other things.
It's really, so Western medicine is wonderful, but it's really just a buffer, right? When people start to get so microscopic in it, right? They're just looking through at looking at it through one lens, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're not looking at the whole. You're not looking at the whole system. You're focused on one little small part. And cool, that one little small part may be off, right? You might need more zinc, magnesium. You may need more vitamin B12.
Yeah.
But why? The why is there's a good chance you're probably not getting that from your nutrition, because that's where we're supposed to get it in the first place. We're not supposed to just supplement.
So good. Oh, let me go disconnect my Bluetooth because he needs some jams in there.
Yeah, no, do what you gotta do.
Got it. Okay, so I wanted to add one more part to this because when they're in the valley, how do they appreciate the valley? This is something that's newer to me because I'm always in the valley. And I always have to remind myself, like, this is the best part. You remember watching Rocky? Imagine if you watched Rocky without the Rocky scenes. Like punching the meat bag, running, getting knocked down, training. Like, imagine you just saw the beginning and then him winning at the end. How exciting would that movie be? It's not exciting. And I think why we are inspired with these Rocky moments is because of these people's valleys. So when I'm in these valleys, I'm not like actively saying like Nick is watching me in this valley. I look at him like this story that I'm in right now is going to be a catalyst for me to inspire one or two more people. And when I really change that perspective, in that I actually start to enjoy the suck a little bit more. Maybe not the whole time, but at least for an hour, right? And it allows me to just continue it. And sometimes when I start to do that, I actually start to enjoy those moments. And that's when you're like, this guy is weird. And I apply that into my fitness for sure, but I've also applied it in business. I don't know if you can add, but there's moments in my career where I'm at the lowest. And you've seen me come from those moments and then still be able to do certain things. How did you feel about those moments? Just curious.
When you were at your lowest, or me personally? When you were at your lowest, it's so whenever anybody's at a low, take it back to the foundation. Whenever anybody's at a low, the first question is like, oh, okay, cool. What are you doing to fill your cup? Like, what are you doing for you? If you're not doing anything for you, you're not going to get out of your low. And if you're in your low for too long, then it will start to affect the entire system, which is your body, right? And so whenever you've hit a low, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. He's outputting too much and he's not inputting back into himself. And usually we'll have a conversation, or you have a wonderful life coach at home. Her name is Tara. And you'll have a conversation with her, and then you'll start doing more things that you consider play. And then once you play more and you find your zest for life again, then that translates into the business, and then whatever valley you're in, you start to work your way out of. So it's an awesome thing to watch people work themselves out of their valleys, but it's also one of those things in understanding when someone's in a valley, what are they seeking, right? Is a person in a valley seeking like commisery, like misery loves company, right? Do they want you to get in the valley with them and just sit there and be like, oh, this valley sucks, like, oh yeah, this sucks in my life, this sucks in my life, right? Are they wanting you to just hold space so that way they can throw what their valley is at you? No reaction, don't give anything, right? Just sit here and hold space so that way they can basically bounce ideas off of your brain? Or are they seeking some form or some sort of structure to get out of the valley? Right? The people who just want to sit down there in the valley, those aren't my type of people, right? And everybody dips down there. Some people dip down there for a week. Some people dip down there for a month. Some people dip down there for a year. Some people dip down there for a day, right? If you're a day to a week, okay, cool. If you're a month or a year, can't do it. But it's one of those things that, okay, cool. Once you're in the valley, you can sit down there, you can do what you need to do. But as you start to work yourself out into the space of, okay, cool, let me bounce this off of you. Okay, cool. Now what are the steps that we can do to get out of the valley? That is when that's the growth. That's the process. And that's always what I will say is the most fun part to watch about whenever you're in a valley is A, how long you're in the valley, and B, what your process is to get out of the valley, because we all have them.
Yeah. I think our greatest conversations and our connection points was when I was in valleys, because you would address it. And you're like, What's up, dude? What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one amazing part. What's interesting for me is I get more excited when people are in their valleys than myself sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you're just like, it takes someone else to recognize it. It was like, bro, you're in your Rocky scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I am in my Rocky scene, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Shoot, thanks for reminding me that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's like,
And it's one of those things like when someone's in a valley and you're genuinely happy for them, it kind of throws them off. I was having a conversation with a gal from Lifetime. She's a trainer. Brief little backstory. She's always hopped from relationship to relationship to relationship to relationship. So she doesn't really know who she is. And so she was telling me about how she's no longer doing that. She took herself out to a concert. She's doing all these things for her. And she opened up to me and I was very thankful. And I just looked at her and I was like, I'm so excited for you. And at first she was like,
it's like, what? I've been failing in this part of my life. Yeah.
Like, you're excited for me?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, because now you're going to get to know yourself. You're going to fall in love with yourself. You're going to know what you want and don't want.
Yeah.
Like, everything that comes after this is absolutely beautiful. And it took a couple of times of reiterating that for her to finally go like, oh shit, like you are genuinely happy and genuinely excited for this phase that I'm about to step into. And I was like, yeah, it's fucking beautiful. It's such a good phase. So when someone's in their valley and you meet them with genuine is a big key thing here.
Yeah.
Genuine happiness, genuine enthusiasm and excitement for where they're at and where they can go. It is, I don't want to say it's life-changing. It could be. It's making ourselves too big than we actually are, but it's moment-changing. If we can change your perception of your valley in that moment, whatever you do with it after that, that's of your own accord, right? Yeah. But maybe, just maybe, we can build some momentum in a positive direction. Why? Because someone is genuinely excited and showing enthusiasm for the valley that you're in and all the potential that comes on the back of it.
The genuine, and if you guys have been to Nick's classes, the genuine is coming from his vision of seeing what circumstance you're having and his perception of this like massive net positive. It's not even equivalent. It's like a multiplier. That's when you really notice someone's genuinely sees that. And I think you do a good job at that, dude. This is why I think your classes are so amazing because number one, the pleasure parts where you're getting your first muscle up, losing your first 5 pounds, you're celebrating. But what makes a person really dangerous is when they're actually celebrating the losses even more. They're like, I'm so excited that you're experiencing this because now we get to work on this, this, and this. And it's so refreshing. And it's actually very rare for like having people that are like that. But when you do recognize that, you got to cling on to those people because they want best for you.
We had snatch on Monday and I had an athlete and it was a beautifully frustrating moment. So she was going for her snatch, right? And she got the barbell to like here.
Right.
And then just dropped it. She's like, I can't get underneath it. And I'm like, okay. Try this for me. Just try one of these things, right? And then she got it freaking here. Yeah. And then she couldn't get underneath it. She's like, I just can't do it. And I was like, go again. So then she got it all the way to here, like above her freaking eyebrows, eyes closed, like, I can't do it. And I was like, girl, just like I was halfway across the gym and I just threw my PVC pipe down. I was like, girl, just freaking drop underneath it. You've already done 3/4 of the hard work, right? So I celebrated each fail because each fail got us one step closer to where we needed to be, right? So she was looking at it as a negative thing. Oh, I want to give up. And after the last one, she was like, no, I just want to take the weight off. I'm like, no, give me one more. You give me one more and then you can freaking do it, right? Yeah. You can take it off, whatever works. Yeah. And so then on her last one, she all the way up overhead. Easy. Cake. Stupid. So easy. But then, around the other side of the gym just freaking out. Woo! Like that was what was the most exciting because I was like, cool, there's no reason why you can't do this, right? Not a technique thing. It's not that you're not strong enough. It's just a little commitment in getting underneath the barbell, right? But if you can hold the barbell to your freaking eyebrows, you can get underneath it. Why? Because you just got to drop 2 inches and bink, your elbows lock out. And so I celebrated each one of her fails because each one of her fails got closer. And like, At first she was like,
It's
why?
like, why is you doing this?
Yeah, why? I'm just
Yeah.
because you're close and you're
Yeah.
getting better. Like, just freaking go. And so this is one of those instances. And again, this is why I love coaching. I'm very
Yeah.
passionate about what I do because it's freaking awesome to watch people overcome themselves from where they think they are to come into the present moment to understand where they could go. And so it was just it was a fun Monday moment to have her be able to get underneath her snatch. And
Yeah.
it was like right before the workout. It was our last rep. So she did it and she was like, oh, and I was like, yes. Oh, high
Yeah.
five. Boom.
Boom.
Take your weight off. Let's go on to the next thing. Right. And
This-
so go ahead.
This is so good because this is what's happening in a lot of people's fitness lives too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're just one habit away from unlocking the body of your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're like, I'm in a plateau. It's like, well, let's look at all of your habits holistically.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's like, okay, your sleep is decent. You're working out 4 days a week. You're
Mhm.
eating enough proteins.
Mm-hmm.
What? You're only doing 1,000 steps
Mm-hmm.
per day?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what if we just did 5 or 8?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, okay, sure, why not? And then you do it, and then they start seeing 1 pound
Mhm.
loss regularly, and they're like, what is happening? And it's because you're not quitting on them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that plateau is telling you a story, that failure is telling you a story. You just have to be willing enough, one, to have grace
Mm-hmm.
to actually see it, and
Mhm.
patience to actually see it. And that's why I love these little lessons in fitness, because it's happening in their life. And why I'm so excited about it, why you and I created this volume series, is because what we're seeing in the gym has massive translations in their life.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think that's why trainers that's been in this state for so long, 10, 15 plus years, is not because of the weight loss goals, guys.
Mhm.
And we'll get you there.
Mhm.
It's beyond that.
Mhm.
And I wish for you guys to actually just see some of those lessons and see if you could apply it in your life.
And I think the second point to that is courage.
Mhm.
Right? You have to have courage to fail.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that whenever we get heavy, I think we had a sidebar conversation after this one time, is most people aren't equipped to deal with failure. I mean, they are, but they
Mhm.
haven't been set up to deal with failure, right? And nobody's ever told them that you can fail. I want you to fail. And so what I've been doing is in my classes, whenever we go heavy, like let's say we're doing a 1 rep test before our next cycle,
Yeah.
I look at them and I'm like, if you're not failing, you're not trying.
Yeah.
You're staying within your comfort zone. So I need you to fail. Why? So then that way we can firm up your technique.
Yeah.
We can address whatever made you fail, and we can get better at it over the coming weeks.
Exactly.
And that is not everybody, right? Because it takes a certain level of individual, a certain level
It
of
takes
awareness.
time.
Yes,
Yeah,
and it takes
yeah.
time. But the ones who kind of grasp onto that wholeheartedly are the ones who, from that moment forward, try a little harder. And
Yeah.
when they try a little harder, their results change. And when their results change, they are just cascading positive momentum in the direction that they want to go.
100%.
So courage to fail. And then
Yeah.
I would say third to that is permission. Nobody
fail.
likes to fail.
Right.
Nobody likes that feeling. But, highest achieving people in any given arena, whether that's work, whether that's fitness, will tell you the only reason they got there is because they were willing to fail.
Mhm.
So if someone has to give you permission so that way you'll fail, cool. I would love for you to fail. Please, for the love of everything
Yeah.
holy, fail. Why? So then that way on the backside of the failure, right, it gives you something to work towards, and then you'll be more willing and more malleable to firm up different foundations, different cracks in your foundations. So then that way we can make you more stable, and once we make you more stable,
Yeah.
whatever it is you want on the back half will come.
Yeah. Once you start to understand how to navigate this area of failure,
Mhm.
you can really progress in life.
Mhm.
And I had a conversation with Steve, and you probably can relate to this. At the very beginning of people's stage, especially if they have a big weight loss goal,
Mhm.
they're trying to lose like 50 to 100 pounds,
Mhm.
I just celebrate as much wins as I possibly can.
Mhm.
And at some point, when they start to lose all their weight, they start to get confident, they become an athlete.
Mhm.
I start addressing weaknesses.
Mhm.
And a lot of times, in order to find those weaknesses, we have to push to a limit where you're failing. Otherwise, I can't coach you.
Mhm.
Right. And that's what you're talking about. And 100%, and having that courage and having someone understand how to navigate through that
Mhm.
is such a critical part of life for sure.
I think that's where having right is subjective. So I think that is where having a coach who is present
Mhm.
is invaluable.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you get into that moment of failure, your negative mind garbage starts to go on high, right? You just start negative self-talk, all the mental garbage, all the stories that we tell ourselves just come to the forefront, and we find reasons to make that true.
Mhm.
And if you have a coach that's present,
It's been there too, It's always really valuable.
yes, right? Because in their insights carry a little bit more weight, and you're a little bit more willing to listen.
Mhm.
So one with who's have been there, and one who's present. That's where that moment and having a coach who is present is absolutely invaluable, because we're going to take this moment where you failed and now your mental mind garbage is starting to really start to shout at you, and we're going to take that, we're going to silence that, because as a coach, beautifully, and I mean this with the utmost compassion
Yeah.
and kindness I can muster, I don't care about your mental garbage, right? Your mental garbage is the stories you tell yourself about your past.
Yeah.
As they become relevant, cool, we can unpack them, but I don't care about your past. We've
Mhm.
talked about it before. As a coach, I care about your present, and I care about where you decide to go. And
So good.
on our way there, we will have to unpack different facets of what you tell yourself up here. But this isn't the overarching thing that I care about. The overarching thing I care about is the individual who's in front of me and what we're dealing with in this current moment, whatever this circumstance is, and overcoming this current circumstance to get you where it is that we together collectively need you to go.
I can't add anything to that. Jesus, bro. Chill, Nick. You just finished your cold brew. That's why.
That's why, yeah.
All right, so let's sum back the 3 lessons. We were gonna do 5. I was like, "There's no way we can do 5. There's just too much to unpack." But that's why we got to do a volume 2, volume 3, volume 4 of this.
I legitimately thought when you said we need 5, so
Oh my
like
gosh,
I
it'd be over.
banged out 5. We'd be here for a really long time.
Yeah, we'd be pulling Joe Rogans. But anyways, what was the first one? The first one was
The body is always 2 weeks behind the work.
so guys, remember the body is 2 weeks behind the work. So if you're stuck and you feel like you're in a plateau, just keep putting in the work for 2 weeks. The second one was if you want to go, you have to let go.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So trust more. Trust in the process more, trust in your people more, and then you will constantly thrive to that next level you're trying to attain. And then the last one is really just appreciating the valleys.
Or the
Because-
peaks will break you.
The peaks will break you, and it's broken me hundreds of times, and I hopefully it's less breaking me now, but it's nice to when I have reminders like this that I actually do appreciate more of the ends too. So guys, write those lessons down and see if you can apply it into your life, and I think you would really not only benefit in your health but also in other areas.
All right, I got something for you before we end.
Yeah.
I'm throwing a curveball at you. What's the best compliment you've received in the last week?
Jeez. What is the best compliment that I received the last week? Gosh. I did get a message from one of my clients that said, "Hey, by the way, thank you for reminding me what I need to do every single week." And it seems I do it for every client. You know what I mean? It's just a natural thing for me. But it just kind of reinforces that some of the habits that are so small in general can have massive impacts. And one of those habits was like, "Hey, can you just send me your steps?" And I just like, that's it. It's just a regular thing. But that little reminder actually proliferated a ton of weight loss over time. And it just reinforces, I guess it just feels good because I know some of the small things can have grander impacts, and it's not the big things that I need to do to make big things happen.
Small hinges swing big doors.
Chill, bro. BDE energy, right? So,
100%.
all right, guys, if you guys like that episode, you'll probably like this episode up here. Nick and I did an episode on if you lost weight, will it make you happy? Find out what it is. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.